Hello Year 6 and welcome to the next lesson in our Cool Britannia topic. This week we'll be learning all about the World Cup in 1966.
And here comes Hurst, he's got some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now, it's four. And Charlton.
The FIFA World Cup was first held in 1930 when FIFA, the world's football governing body, decided to stage an international men's football tournament under the era of FIFA President Jules Rimet, who put this idea into place. The World Cup is held every 4 years and the winning team receive a trophy called the Jules Rimet, and each winning country is engraved upon the base. The very first World Cup was held in 1930 and was contested as a final tournament of only 13 teams who were invited by FIFA to take part. It was won by the hosting nation Uruguay, who won 4-2 against Argentina that year, when footballs looked like this and referees looked like this. Since then, the World Cup has expanded and is now a competition between 32 teams who go through a 2-year qualifying process involving over 200 teams from all around the world. In 1966, the 8th World Cup was held in England and the matches took place in 8 stadiums across the country. It was the only time that England have ever won the World Cup and still remains to this day one of the proudest moments in British football history, remembered for the only hat-trick scored in a World Cup final ever and some of the best footballers this country has ever produced. However, the World Cup was not without its controversies that year, meaning that England's win has caused much discussion since as to whether it was a fair tournament and if England really deserved to win. In today's history lesson, we're going to look at some of the evidence on both sides of the argument before asking you to make up your own mind. Did England win the World Cup in 1966 fairly? As you watch the arguments presented on both sides, add notes to your task sheet here. You will need to decide if they're an argument for England winning unfairly or not. You could simply make notes on another piece of paper. There's no need to print this out if you don't have a printer or you don't want to. Let's begin. In 1964, 70 nations entered for the qualifying tournament, hoping to take part in the 1966 World Cup. However, in January 1964, FIFA decided that the lineup for the 16-team finals would include 10 teams from Europe, including hosts England, 4 from Latin America and 1 from the Central American and Caribbean region. That just left one place to be fought for by 3 continents: Africa, Asia and Oceania. FIFA's decision at this time caused outrage in Africa. They did not think it was fair for them to have to arrange a playoff between their top teams and other teams from Asia and Oceania, as it was so expensive for them to do. The Confederation of African Football, or CAF for short, threatened to boycott the World Cup if they were not guaranteed a place for one African team. You can see here the letter sent by CAF to FIFA demanding that one of the allocated places given to Europe should be granted to Africa. They clearly felt there was a bias by FIFA to favour European teams. FIFA, whose president at the time was Sir Stanley Rouse, who was British, refused to budge though, as you can see from their response here, causing Africa to boycott the World Cup completely. Subsequently, no African countries took part in the World Cup in 1966. The 16 qualifying teams were England, because they were the hosts, Brazil, Mexico, Uruguay, Argentina, Hungary, Chile, the Soviet Union, Portugal, France, Spain, West Germany, North Korea, Switzerland, Italy, and Bulgaria. The World Cup was held across the country in 8 different stadiums, including Ayresome Park, which hosted 3 matches, Roker Park in Sunderland, which hosted 4, Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield, which also hosted 4 matches, Goodison Park, which is Everton's ground, hosted 5 matches, Villa Park in Birmingham hosted 3 matches also, Manchester United's ground of Old Trafford hosted 3 matches. White City Stadium only had 1. However, while all the other competing countries travelled from stadium to stadium around the country to play their matches, All of England's matches took place at their own home ground of Wembley, which some people felt gave England the unfair advantage. On the other hand, the World Cup was being held in England, and perhaps FIFA felt that the stadium with the largest capacity, 98,600 in this case, could better accommodate the fans. We see here some of the fans arriving to see their team at Wembley in 1966. Some sports analysts believe that having the home advantage is worth a lot, possibly even 2/3 of a goal per game in international football. Some people believe that referees can be swayed by the pressure of noisy home crowds. Argentina, who were a real contender in the 1966 World Cup, got lost on their way to their training session the day before they played England. Then the evening before their quarter-final against England, Argentina weren't allowed their mandatory 20-minute practice session at Wembley on the grounds that it would have interfered with the evening's greyhound racing. Many people think they could have been fitted in, and this was a deliberate attempt to sway the competition in England's favour. In addition, the captain of the Argentinian team was sent off by the referee for arguing with him, which caused quite a lot of upset during the game. England went on to win the match 1-0 thanks to a goal from striker Geoff Hurst. However, this goal was disputed by the Argentinians, who claimed that it was offside, and the match ended in a fair amount of disarray, with Alf Ramsey, the manager of England, trying to stop the England players from swapping shirts with the Argentinians. When England progressed to the semi-finals, FIFA decided to move the England versus Portugal semi-final from Goodison Park in Liverpool, where Portugal had come to feel at home and played all of their games so far, to Wembley, where England had played all of their previous games, thus perhaps giving England the advantage.
As football is played, who would it be to meet West Germany in the final? Portugal, world-renowned for their brilliance, or England, playing better in each game and even exceeding the promise that all but a few critics believed them to have? Not one goal had they conceded in the competition so far, and by these two great teams, sportsmanship and genuine football skill were certain to be displayed.
However, as we've just heard from the commentary there, England had reached the semi-finals of the World Cup without conceding one goal.
After 31 minutes, Pereira only half cleared. The ball went to Bobby Charlton, and Portugal tried to hit back, only to find Banks showing the form he has displayed all along. Pressure again from a corner. A few anxious seconds, and Banks again had the ball away. At the other end, Peters tried a shot without luck. Now a glimpse of the great Eusebio. But England breathed again. England were jubilant at half-time, 1 goal up. Portugal kicked off on the resumption. This game was more than living up to its promise. There was none of the violence and foul temper that marred several matches in the competition. This was football of true international standard. Neither side dared relax for a second.
There are some people that believe that the referee's decisions went England's way early on in the competition, which helped them to progress. But as we see from the footage here, from the semi-final against Portugal, Jackie Charlton touches the ball with his hand, and the penalty is awarded to Portugal.
Jackie Charlton handled the ball away. Eusebio took the kick. At very nearly full time, that prince of sharpshooters, Bobby Charlton, very nearly scored another. England had won 2-1. What a moment for Bobby Moore, captain of England in their first ever World Cup semi-final, and for the great Bobby Charlton. His goals had taken England into the final. Eusebio wept as he left the field.
This is the England manager Alf Ramsey talking to the press in 1966. Before the tournament, Ramsey had gathered his players for a training camp and asked them for 2 months of sacrifice. No alcohol was to be drunk and no smoking was allowed. He trained the players hard and ensured they were at the peak of their fitness. Most other teams in 1966 weren't so professional. Some teams were reported to stock up on large quantities of wine. Others apparently smoked straight after friendlies and training sessions. Fitness mattered in springy turf at Wembley, where players often became fatigued. There were no penalty shootouts in 1966, and a draw would mean that the game would go into extra time where some teams would become tired. Alf Ramsey ensured that his team had the stamina to continue. The statistics seemed to confirm the team's superior fitness. 5 of the 9 goals that they scored in normal time at the World Cup came in the last 15 minutes of matches. While he was a hard taskmaster during training, Ramsey knew the importance of allowing the team some downtime to relax and not allow the pressure of the World Cup to affect his players. They had their wives with them at the camp, and he allowed them time to visit the actors on the new James Bond film at Pinewood Studios right before the final. In a change with the common practice of the day, Alf Ramsey used a narrow formation that led to his England side being dubbed the Wingless Wonders. New system dispensed with the out-and-out winger and used another midfielder tucked in from the flank to give in effect a midfield diamond. Now it's time for us to see the final.
International, no other cup final, indeed nothing Wembley ever staged, matched the glamour of this event, the final of the World Cup. The cream of the world's players battle for the honour of playing on this arena on this afternoon. Waiting in the tunnel were England on the right and West Germany. When the moment came for the players to march out, 97,000 fans gave them the biggest roar of the competition. Bobby Moore and Uwe Seeler were out in the middle exchanging international compliments and meeting the referee, Dienst of Switzerland. You might call this the moment of truth for Alf Ramsey. His 3 years of team building, as the Germans kicked off, coming up for its crucial test. England looked unfamiliar in their red shirts. A long shot gave Banks no trouble. And what a test for the 22 star players, 90 minutes away from the game's highest glory or defeat. In possession was that all-round player, Sigi Heltz, moving into a position spelling danger for England. Banks, alert as usual. The West German attack had bite and purpose. On they came again. An English defensive lapse gave the ball to Haller, and that was it. One down after 12 minutes spurred the English attack. No time for lethargy or half measures. They swept into German territory. Tilkowski cleared, only to put Bobby Charlton in possession. Another fine save, but there was no stopping England. This time a chance came to West Ham's Geoff Hurst. It's the equaliser! Splendidly matched, these teams. German top scorer Emmerich had a chance. Fortunately, Gordon Banks anticipated his shot. England piled on the pressure. Bobby Charlton inspired a movement which, with just a little more luck, could have put England in the lead. A big sigh of relief for West Germany when the ball was clear. Play was faithfully reflected by the score, 1-1 at half-time. A brief let-up in the tension came as welcome relief for both English and German supporters. But as England kicked off, playing right to left and quickly built up an attack, excitement made the Wembley atmosphere electric. England had to score. And if the prayers of millions could inspire them, surely a goal was not far off. The West German defence was like a stone wall. Again, England launched an offensive. And again, the German blockade could not be penetrated. Play swung to the other end. West Germany threatened the English goal, but Banks, playing brilliantly, was in position to deal with it. The ball goes to Bobby Charlton. Charlton to Hunt on the left. Despite strong German threats, the English defence could not be rattled. It's there! Peters has scored! For the Wembley thousands and the millions at home, one thought, victory. England, spurred by their 2-1 lead, played like a team inspired to clinch a win. In the dying minutes of the match, the jubilant English supporters' nerves were strained to breaking point. The World Cup was within England's reach. If only they could keep the lead for a few desperate minutes against the West Germans. Now a team playing their hearts out to keep in the running. Germany would not let up. Then, seconds before the final whistle, agony for England. Weber scored. It had to be extra time. The first period of extra time proved to the full the value of Ramsey's training methods. England began with a vigour and speed astounding after the gruelling 90 minutes they'd already
About
played.
to see Jeff Hurst's much disputed third goal. What do you think? Does it cross the line?
Spirit, believing that with sustained attack the goals must come. Then Jeff Hurst, cool and collected, had the ball in the net. No, it bounced out. Goal claimed England. No goal, protested the Germans. The referee consulted the linesman, who'd been in line with the posts, and goal it was. England led again, 3-2 now. And in spite of a German attack early in the final period of extra time, Bobby Moore's men had thrown off all signs of tiredness. It was West Germany who were now noticeably the slower team. When there was only a minute to go, England still had no thought of being content with that one-goal lead. Racing to beat the whistle, Jeff Hurst saw an opening in the defence and achieved the hat-trick. Jimmy Greaves, out of the side through injury, set the example to the other reserves by congratulating the victorious players. Bobby Moore led England up to the Royal Box to receive the Jules Rimet Cup and the winners' medals. To be here as winners of the FA Cup has often been described as the summit of a footballer's ambition. How much greater was the triumph they enjoyed now. Years ago, Alf Ramsey set out on the hard road that led to the World Cup. Only the optimists thought he could possibly succeed. Certainly not West Germany, whose team now ran a lap of honour. They were very sporting losers. But it was England that the whole world of sport was now cheering. Into his gallant team, England manager Alf Ramsey instilled sportsmanship first and foremost. How well they applied his teaching. May we, in 1970, be represented by a team of sportsmen as good as these winners of the World Cup.
Now that you've seen some of the arguments put forwards on both sides and made your notes, it's time to decide, did the fittest and best team win the World Cup in 1966? Take a look back at your notes before you make your decision, and then we'd like you to write whatever you think, whether England won the World Cup fairly or whether it was an unfair decision, and back up your points on the second page of the task sheet that I'm just showing you here. Whatever your point of view, England's victory has never been repeated. The furthest England have come in a World Cup competition since 1966 is the quarter-finals. The final part of your task this week is just for fun. It's called Do You Know the Score? Football in Britain has developed a language of its own over the years, and there are so many common idioms that people use when they're discussing football. How many do you know? You'll find some common football idioms on one side of the sheet, such as the beautiful game and it's a funny old game, it's a game of two halves, and then on the other side they're possible interpretations. How many can you match up? You might want to discuss these with your friends and family to see how many you know. Good luck with your history learning this week, Year 6. See you soon.